This is the home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. Welcome to Join News Prime with me, Samuel Kojo. Coming up in this bulletin, we'll tell you about Ghana's October inflation rate and how ladies' underwear has made its way as a driver. We'll engage some traders as well.
It was okay a little bit, but now there is very bad because of the prices and then how they safer. And then the dollar, because even just about 3, 4, 5 months alone, it has shoot.
Also, ahead of a crucial debate and vote to decide the fate of Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, Minority Chief Whip issues urgent plea to his MPP colleagues to join them make history.
I have a 136 that is there to give you the minimum threshold to build upon. Come join us, because I can assure you tomorrow we'll make history. If you join us, we'll make history. And for the first time in the history of our country, ministers will begin to take the work that they have given super serious.
A Greek ministry to investigate alleged excessive profiteering of traders and market women said to be the cause of the current food price hikes as price soar to record levels.
I'm speculating that the marketeers are making supernormal profit. That is something that has to be looked at.
Details as Minister for Agri parries away suggestions that transportation cost is to blame for the current food price hikes.
Many attributes the high increase in the cost of fuel and transportation. Whereas this may be true to some extent, our analysis at the ministry revealed that it is over-exaggerated.
More as he defends decision to turn a Greek ministry as a market center to sell cheap food product. Also in this bulletin, National Labour Commission direct 3 teacher unions to call off their strike and return to the negotiation table with the government.
The commission saw reason that they had something that they could complain of, but they have to engage with the ministry. So they have been given 1 week to engage with government on the 2 issues that they raised.
At 8 p.m., Pius Kojo joins with Prime Business.
Business economist urges Ghanaians to brace up to pay more for goods and services as inflation for the month of October 2022 increases to 40.4%.
Consumer Price Index for the month of October 2022 stood at 144.4% relative to 102.9% that was recorded for the same period, October 2021.
Now, also at 8:30, Razak Musbah will join with Prime Sports.
Well, former Black Stars captain Stephen Appiah has extolled the tactical ingenuity of Otoado and his technical team ahead of the 2022 World Cup.
We're live on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 144, also around the world on myjournal.com. Stay for details. Now, the October inflation rate of 40.4% is a whole story. In this story, undergarment have refused to remain under. The cost of women's underwear in the month under review saw an annual uptick of more than 89%, making it one of key drivers of the over 2 decades high inflation rate.
One interesting feature of the new inflation drivers is that of the inclusion of underwears, particularly that of women. We are still in the Malata market. Let's get into this shop where we'll be educated on some of the prices that used to be and what they are now. What really are some of the things that have contributed to the prices that we have now for it to even feature in this particular report? Good evening. Please, what's your name?
Fine, my name is Mary.
Okay, Grace. Mary, so generally though, how good or bad has the business been in terms of selling underwear?
Very bad. Formerly it was okay a little bit, but now there is very bad because of the prices and then how they safer and then the dollar, because of the safer in the dollar.
See, so those are major things that are worrying the business that you are doing, the dollar and the CFA?
Yes, that's what I've said. As for the goods, when you go to buy, if you go to buy, they haven't increased it. But when the CFA shoots, then the things goods also shoot. Hey, praise my English. Oh.
Don't worry, you'll be fine. So walk us through some of the ones that you have. The report says underwear, particularly that for women.
Okay, we have this cotton pants. This cotton pants is formerly somewhere May, June, it's 50 Ghana cedis for a dozen. Now it's 100 Ghana. And then we have this type. The same month is about 2 or 3, 4 months ago. It's 60 Ghana cedis. Now we are selling it 101.
60 Ghana cedis, did I hear that?
Yes, please.
And it's now how much?
101.
110, 101 Ghana cedis. 10. That's about 50 Ghana cedis more.
Yeah, it's because of the CFA. You see, I've already told you that it's about 2 or 3, 4 months ago. The CFA was 8 cedis. And now it's about 2 cedi and distance. So you can see the difference. Through the CFA.
So which other ones do we have? So the one that you raised earlier, what was the name?
Hey, the pants.
I thought some of the panties have names. Forgive me, I mean, I'm not so much educated on the types of panties and stuff that we have. Okay.
Like Dinah Rose. This one is Dinah Rose. And then, oh, this. You can see this one too. The lady, for the ladies. Sister, eh?
So this is a famous G-string?
Yes. So you can see.
So for this one, for instance, the one that you are
One
holding.
is 10 cedis. Formerly, it was 6 cedis.
So for this one, now 10 cedis. Let's go back to last year December.
Dozen price. Oh.
Okay, so last year December, dozen price was how much?
Now dozen price is 10 cedis. Wow.
So last year December, how much did you sell it? Okay.
Last year, because even just about 3, 4, 5 months alone, it has shoot.
Now, for the inflation, non-alcoholic beverages contributed to the highest rate of 40.4%. Housing, gas, water, electricity, diesel, and petrol all contributed significantly to the new rate. Isaac Ofia Minta is a data analyst with our research team here. John Uzi has a breakdown of the percentages. Now, Isaac, what do we know so far? I mean, we saw Papani there telling us more about what the market is saying, but in terms of the data we have, what is it telling us?
So there's actually a perfect correlation between the picture that Papani painted in the market to what we have here on the touch screen. So this is what the Ghana Statistical Service data is actually saying. So if you look at the month year-on-year inflation rates, we have, the key suspects, which is either diesel or petrol and transportation. And so if you look at this chart, you can actually see the top 10 drivers of the 40.4% inflation rate that we see for October 2022. So the first one is diesel with an inflation rate of 155.6%. This simply means that the price that you used to buy, per liter of, for diesel, that's somewhere October last year. If you compare it to this year, October, the price has actually gone up by 155.6%. Same for petrol, 101%. Granules, 111%. Palm oil, 105%. There's also washing powder, 104%. Sunflower oil, 102%. Millet, 96%. Coconut oil, 95.5%. And there's, what Papa Ni was actually trying to interrogate, the underwear for women with, an inflation of 89.2%. So it simply means that if you're a lady and you used to buy, your underwear for, let's say, like 20 cedis or 10 cedis, now you need close to, if you're buying at 10 cedis, you need like 20 cedis to buy the same underwear that you're buying somewhere October last year. If you look at the regional breakdown, although the headline figure is 40.4%, there are some regions with inflation rates above 40%. Now, once upon a time, Eastern region was the region with the least inflation, but currently Eastern region has the highest inflation more than 51%. There's Greater Accra region, 49.1%. There's also Central region with an inflation rate of 46.6%. You made mention of other key products that are actually driving the 40% inflation that we are seeing. There's water with an inflation of 64.3%, milk and other dairy foods, 53.9%, and you can actually see the rest of the data as we have painted for you to understand. But I want us to do this trend analysis for our viewers at home to actually understand what you're talking about. If you compare what is happening in other African countries, you realize that Ghana actually has a peculiar situation. So we are looking at inflation rates for countries like Togo, where government is now spending close to $20 million every month to make sure that the price of fuel and other food items are down. Their inflation rate is now just 7.9%. If you look at somewhere, Zambia, they just received an IMF program of $1.3 billion. Their inflation has moved from a double digit now to a single digit of 9.7%. Now let's scroll down to our beloved country, Ghana. So we know countries like Sudan and Zambia have peculiar situations. So you can't really compare them to Ghana. But if you look at the chart, Ghana is more or less like the country with the worst inflation of 40.4%, moving from 37.2% from September base.
Worrying statistics there, but with food prices over the roof, market women and other traders are under the lens of the Ministry for Food and Agriculture as they investigate allegations that they are excessively overpricing food to make supernormal profits. Answering questions in Parliament, the Minister, Dr. Owusu-Efri-Yakoto, said this development of profiteering has come to their attention and are investigating. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante now reports.
So much has been said about traders overpricing food to make excessive profit. The Ministry for Food and Agriculture are not taking this lightly and are looking into it, according to the minister.
Some are speculating that the marketeers are making supernormal profit. That is something that has to be looked at. When you take the actual costs from the farm gate, how much the farmer is paid, the collection, the transportation, the handling, packing, transportation to Accra or Tamale or Takoradi. The price, the figure you get is multiples of what retailers are paying. Traders making supernormal profits. That is what I said. It's something that has to be investigated.
The minister, however, insists the cost of transportation is not the cause of the current food price hikes. He has also been reiterating his plan to turn the ministry into a market center to sell cheap food items to the general public.
Many attributes the high increase in the cost of fuel and transportation. Whereas this may be true to some extent, our analysis at the ministry reveal that it is over-exaggerated. Ministry on its own is arranging to transport food from the production centers directly to Accra to provide food at reasonable prices to the public and the workers.
The minister has been blaming the war in Ukraine as a major factor in food prices going up and outlined measures to bring things under control.
Another major factor, the Russian-Ukraine conflict, has contributed to the trend of rising prices of inputs. We started at a peak of the COVID in 2020.
Inflation is currently standing at a staggering 40% and is largely driven by fuel, transportation, and other intrinsic factors. Indeed, there are those who even suggest that this 40% that is being quoted by the Ghana Statistical Service is not a true reflection of what is pertaining in the ordinary market. Well, the ordinary Ghanaian is the better judge of that. When you go out there to the market, the prices that you get to buy your food items at, is it reflective of this 40% that has been quoted? These are some of the questions MPs have been putting to the minister, forcing him to admit that the current food crisis is partly due to government's mismanagement of the Planting for Foods and Job program and other such policy failure. The minister has, however, been standing his ground, insisting these issues are largely foreign-driven, the war in Ukraine and other such international issues. For Joy News, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
Now, the National Labour Commission has directed the 3 teacher unions to call off the strike and return to the negotiation table with government. For days now, academic activities have ground to a halt as teachers say the appointment of Dr. Eric Nkansa as Director General and the extension of the stay of the Deputy Director General of the Ghana Education Service will spell doom for the education sector. After attempt to convince the teachers to reverse their decision failed, the government decided to drag the teacher unions before the National Labour Commission. Joy News' Richard Kojo monitored the meeting and has more on this.
Here at the National Labour Commission, the meeting has ended. The National Labour Commission met the 3 teacher unions and government. The government side was headed by the Deputy Employment and Labour Relations Minister, Bright Rekubrobe, and the 3 teacher unions were ably represented. So we saw the NATS General Secretary Thomas Musa. We also saw Angel Kabanu as well as a representative of the concerned teachers. Now, when the meeting came to a close, the NLC directed the 3 teacher unions to immediately call off the strike and then return to the negotiation table with government on the issues that they have raised. They raised 2 pertinent issues. One was on the appointment of the Director General of the Ghana Education Service. The second was the continuous stay of the Deputy Director General of the Ghana Education Service. And so the Commission has taken a decision and has directed that they call off the strike immediately. We've been interacting with the Executive Secretary of the National Labour Commission, Ofosu Asamoah.
The Commission saw reason that they had something that they could complain of, but they have to engage with the ministry. So they have been given 1 week to engage with government on the 2 issues that they raised. That is the appointment of Dr. Nkansa, that's Eric Nkansa, as Director General of GES, and then the extension of time for the Deputy Director General, who after his retirement, he has been given extension to be in office.
Now, beyond the strike, if the teacher unions fail to call, what will you do? Will you go to court, seek court intervention?
They will call off. That is why it was adjourned for 1 week.
What word did they give you before walking out of the meeting?
We do not take word from people whether they will comply or not. This is an institution. We give directive, and when we give directive, we expect that people will comply. It is only when we fail to comply that we may take the next step. But in a period of 1 week, at least they gave us the assurance. They gave us all the assurance to comply. Yes.
The government side, after the directive of the National Labour Commission, had it to say. So we've been speaking with Bright Rekubrobe, the Deputy Minister of Employment and Labour Relations.
The pre-tertiary teacher unions raised some concerns. And we engaged them for 2 days, and we have been here. Our main contention was that whatever the issues were, we could discuss them if they were not on strike. They also told their side of story. The verdict today is that the unions did not follow the proper way, the right channels before they embarked on the strike.
Now, parents of pupils at public basic schools in the Ashanti region are worried their wards may fall prey to unscrupulous individuals as they stay out of the classrooms. The distraught parents want the government and the striking teacher unions to resolve their impasse for the students to return to school. Love FM's Emmanuel Bright-Kweku reports some pupils were asked to return home by school authorities on Wednesday.
These students of the Bomso MA Primary and JHS just returned from school after meeting no teacher at their school. After dressing up for school, they had hoped the doors to their classrooms would be opened for teaching.
Everybody was not there, so we just said that we are going home.
I did not go to school yesterday, so I decided to go today, thinking I would meet someone there. But I did not see anyone when I went there.
I am hoping they will resume school so we can have our exams. We are about writing our midterm examinations. I will only stay glued to the TV set. I won't take my books to learn. I'm not happy we are home because I'll be doing nothing. I'll just roam about. It's been 3 days since teachers across the country boycotted class in protest against the appointment of Dr. Eric Nkansa as the Director General of the Ghana Education Service. A number of basic schools in the Ashanti region have been closed in adherence to the directive. Both children and parents are at the receiving end of the industrial action. Some parents are worried.
We are worried our wards will lag behind in academics. They should resolve the issue quickly. When they are home, they will only roam about and might be abducted by these kidnappers. It's not safe for them to stay out of school.
My colleague Richard Kojo joins us on Zoom with some details on the teachers' situation. Richard, what do we know so far concerning the teachers?
Okay, so Brace, the Clockstack says it's been following with keen interest the impasse between the three teacher unions and the Ghana Education Service. They say that while supporting the teacher unions on the bold steps they have taken to sanitize the operations of the Ghana Education Service, it finds the twists and turns in the discussion quite unhealthy. So they say that they have similar appointments in the civil service and the local government service and are not conducive for industrial harmony. And they cite a case in point is the appointment of registrar at the birth and death registry that has culminated in a court action that is still pending. And they cite this constitutional provision in Article 9, in the 1992 Constitution that provides that Article 195(1) says that subject to the provisions of the Constitution, the power to appoint persons to hold or to act in an office in the public services shall vest in the President, acting in accordance with the advice of the Governing Council of the Service concerned, given in consultation with the Public Services Commission. And it is significant to note that the appointment of public officers vested in the President should be in accordance with the advice of the Governing Council of the Service concerned, given in consultation with the Public Services Commission. And for industrial peace to prevail, the appointing authority should adhere strictly to the provisions in the Constitution on the appointment of public officers. And these two statements, they say that meanwhile, Clockstack would be calling for an emergency meeting to chart its course of subsequent actions. And I am quoting them: we should all endeavor to act in a manner that will sustain industrial harmony in the country. And it's signed by Clockstack Executive Secretary Isaac Bampoado.
I'm grateful that you could join us with that latest update on there. Now, Minority Chief Whip Mohammed Muntaka Mubarak is calling on his colleagues in the majority to join the NDC to vote to remove Finance Minister Ken Oforiatta from office. The motion for censure is scheduled to be moved tomorrow in Parliament. Ahead of that, Muntaka Mubarak says his MPP colleagues must join them to make history. He spoke to my colleague Aisha Ibrahim in a yet-to-be-aired interview for PMS Press.
You have to get this succeed, because when it succeeds, then everybody will now be careful about trying to hurt them. If it fails, I can assure you they're not going to find it easy. So my encouragement to them is that, please, at least your 80, some may chicken out of fear, but your conviction for which reason you decided to do what you did, you have a 136 that is there to give you the minimum threshold to build upon. Come join us. because I can assure you tomorrow we'll make history. If you join us, we'll make history. And for the first time in the history of our country, ministers will begin to take the work that they have given super, super serious and know that there are consequences if you fail to act and manage according to the way you are supposed to do. The output that is expected of you, people will begin to sit up. But if it fails, obviously, it will be business as usual. Because remember, this is the closest that we've come, where there's at least half of the house waiting for some few to join. Most of the time, you have the majority have overwhelming number. So it's like, oh, this matter I do about nothing. In 1999, when the MPP were daring to do this, their number was just about 60, is it 68 or 61, between 60 and 69. And the majority had overwhelming 130 something. So, I mean, it was like, oh, we're just doing it for the record.
Okay.
But this time, the number is so close that with just about 50 more members, it could happen. So if it succeeds, believe me, for the rest of the 2 years, any minister of state will be careful because he knows there could be danger. But if it fails, then it's like, oh, business as usual. So they'll continue to do the things that they are doing that will be hurting all of us. And then we'll continue the excessive partisanship that will not help our country.
Well, the NPP party has released a statement asking majority MPs to abstain from the vote of censure against the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta. The statement was released a while ago, and it says the leadership of the New Patriotic Party, following broader consultations and engagement with stakeholders, has resolved and hereby direct all members of the majority caucus in Parliament to abstain from a scheduled vote of censure being sought by the minority caucus against Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, Minister for Finance. By this directive, the leadership of the majority caucus, especially the whips, are to ensure that no member of the majority caucus partakes in this exercise by the minority group in Parliament. While the national executive body acknowledges the prevailing socio-economic conditions in the country and the need for urgent remedial interventions, it is our utmost position that the demand of the NDC-led minority caucus is ill-intended and aimed at derailing government's efforts at resolving current socio-economic upheavals. Now, the leadership acknowledges that the Minister for Finance is the leader of government's negotiation team with the International Monetary Fund. Considering that negotiation with the IMF is nearly completed, the national executive body of the party strongly believes that the removal of the lead person spearheading the negotiation may adversely impact the progress made thus far. It is worth noting that when similar calls were made for the head of Mr. Seth Tekpe, the then Minister for Finance, during the socio-economic turbulence under the erstwhile Mahama administration in 2015, the NDC-led majority caucus objected to those calls and rose to the defense of Mr. Tekpe, a clear indication that the NDC lacks credibility on this matter. Accordingly, neither the MPP nor its members of Parliament will lend support to this mischievous move by the NDC legislators, as it is one of their many ill-motivated and self-serving but unpatriotic moves to sabotage the MPP government and frustrate the administration of the country. The leadership of the MPP wishes to assure our members of Parliament and the Ghanaian populace that there are ongoing internal engagement aimed at addressing legitimate concerns expressed by various stakeholders regarding the management of the economy, including calls for the resignation or dismissal of the Minister of Finance. And this statement is signed by Justin Frimpong Kojo, who is General Secretary of the party, and he joins us on phone now to help us understand more. Thank you so much, Mr. Kojo, for joining us. Now, this is an issue where a lot of Ghanaians say, get him off. By what you're doing, that means that the party is going against the wishes of the many Ghanaians who are calling for the head of the finance minister, not so?
Good evening to you and your cherished listeners or viewers. First and foremost, I will take our mind back to about 2 weeks ago where a section of our members of parliament held a press conference seeking the removal of our finance minister. I believe in the press conference, certain statements were made based on which they call for the press conference. For us as a political party, we are founded based on vision and our mission and aspiration. And Article 14 of our Constitution talks about parliamentary group, that every action or inaction of them must be in consonance with our Constitution. Since the press conference, there has been several engagements, discussions between our members of parliament and the government, for that matter, the president. The position of the party is that if the finance minister is going to resign, or if the finance minister is going to be sacked, it's going to be based on consensus. It's going to be based on a clear understanding that it is in the interest of the party and the government. But we are not going to take an action based on what the NDC dictates or what the NDC wants.
Well, Mr. Kojo, but are you in government to serve your party, the NPP, or you are in government to serve the people of Ghana?
Yes, and that's quite the same point I'm trying to make. For instance, if you look at the motion paper that the NDC is pushing ahead, the content of it, the statement that they have raised, we disagree with them on many of those points. For instance, they are talking about illegal payment of oil revenues into offshore accounts, despicable conflict of interest, unconstitutional withdrawals from the consolidated fund, and the list goes on. And that's not the position of our members of parliament. So if that's not the position of our members of parliament, how can we support their censure motion? If the NDC wanted to act in good faith, and they believe that consensus building is key, what stopped them from engaging our members of parliament to sit on the round table and discuss on the items that these are the ones that we all agree we need to put in the motion paper? How can you unilaterally go and take a decision and you are expecting our members of parliament to come and support you? That's like shooting ourselves in the foot. For us, and if we listen carefully to the press statement or press conference by our members of parliament, they were reiterating the concerns shared by Ghanaians about the state of our economy. And they feel that for where we have gotten to, we need a new person to take the helm of affairs. Those are very legitimate points that we can look into it. But those issues that have been raised by the NDC, we believe that it's ill-motivated and it's a self-centered motion paper that they want our members of parliament to support, which as a national party, we will not sanction or allow our members of parliament to go on that tangent. So it's very clear. Our position is clear. We are looking at various issues. They are still in consultation. They are discussing what has to be done. And I can assure you, at the end of the day, what would be in the best interest of good people of Ghana will surely be taken, but not with the NDC selfish interest that they want our members of parliament to follow.
But isn't this move something the leadership in parliament on your side could have done and not warrant the involvement of the larger party as you've done?
Well, that's a different discussion for another day. But for we as leadership of the New Patriotic Party, based on what is contained in the NDC motion paper, is what we are speaking about. And we feel that motion paper does not reflect the overall view of Ghanaians and, for that matter, our members of parliament. That's why we are giving that directive. So if our members of parliament, and for that matter, our party, believes certain actions and decisions have to be taken, definitely we will not shy away from it. But it's not going to be done under the dictates of the members of parliament from the minority side.
Now, earlier, the party had indicated that it was mediating between government and the majority MPs over Ken Ofori-Atta. Is this an indication that you don't think the finance minister should leave?
That's even far from that. That is not even the issue on the table now. For us, our position is very clear. Members of parliament from the majority side or majority caucus are there by virtue of the fact that they went there on the ticket of the New Patriotic Party. The President, His Excellency, won the election on the ticket of the New Patriotic Party. And that has been the statement of our national chairman. They are our two children. And when there is an impasse or when there is an issue, it's our duty as mother of the two children to find amicable solutions to it. And I will state categorically that when it gets to that point, that the finance minister has to resign or has to be dismissed by the president, the party will not shy away from it. But what we don't want is for the NDC to dictate to us. As I speak to you, as a national party, there's an evaluation or assessment going on with respect to all government appointees to make sure that at least at the end of the day, we are in a good position to assess appointees of the government to see whether the mandate or the work that has been given to them, they are really up to the task or not. And when that assessment is done, trust me, the party will make its findings known to the presidency and push for where a minister has to be sacked or where an appointee has to be dismissed or transferred. All these things will come into play. But all these things are being done. But we will not be rushed or will not kowtow under the whims and caprices of the minority members in parliament.
Do I get the impression that you've not taken a decision regarding the Ken Offerta issue?
Well, it will be erroneous on your part to think that the party doesn't have a position. The party definitely has a position of whatever is going on. But at the end of the day, looking at where we are now, the party will take that firm conclusion, and for the firm conclusion to be enforced by the government at the right time. But as I indicated, it will not be done under the whims and caprices of the minority members of parliament.
But when is this right time going to be? When Ghanaians are calling for it, the people you serve, the people who give you the mandate to govern?
When you say Ghanaians, have we done a research to determine the number of Ghanaians who are making that call?
Okay, I'm grateful that you could join us. So that's Justin Frimpong Kodia. He is the General Secretary of the MPP. But you can watch that full interview between Aisha and Muntaka Mubarak at 9 p.m. on PM Express tonight. Now, former Speaker of Parliament, Professor Aaron Michael Quay, is calling for a review of Supreme Court's ruling on the Martin Pegbu versus Attorney General case, which made all crimes bailable offences. He says the ruling opened the floodgate for the commitment of serious crime without impunity. Professor Michael Quay was speaking at an IEA seminar on reviewing the 1992 Constitution to secure our natural resources and the economy.
In a development-oriented constitution, human rights must assume a broader posture. For example, the recent controversy over the granting of bail should be regulated by the Constitution. In the case of Martin Pegbu versus Attorney General, the Supreme Court opened the floodgates for granting bail. According to the Supreme Court of Ghana, the provisions under the 1992 Constitution allowed for bail for virtually every offense in Ghana. To my mind, this, is not a developmental approach and must be reconsidered. Economic sabotage today, as we glaringly see with Galamsey, for example, should mean a new bail approach. Offenses which are economic and undermining the economic resources we have, including gold, oil, lithium, et al., and other recovery efforts should be clearly identified. In fact, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, if we come to look at our bail granting regime, and if it is the Constitution that so widely allows bail, then we need to reconsider it. Because when you are tackling economic crime, you must seriously have the tools to apply.
Joining me on Zoom is the man who went to the Supreme Court and secured that groundbreaking ruling that made all offenses bailable. Thank you so much for joining us, lawyer Martin Luther Pegbu. Now, did it ever cross your mind that a Supreme Court ruling you secured will be challenged?
Yes, because, it's such a very, critical issue that even at the time, before we went into court, this debate had always been on, that some law enforcement agents or officers felt that it will make their work more difficult. So that debate, was expected to continue. But with due respect to Professor Kwe, I don't see where the statistics is using to back his claim that the decision is not a good one. Because what is the empirical evidence? What was the situation before and what is the situation after? You see? So it makes the contributing to this debate very difficult. But let me try a few examples to situate it. You see Aisha 1. Though now all offenses are available. Where is Aisha 1? Is she not still in custody? So that is the whole point. What the Supreme Court did was that it said, no, it's not within the powers of Parliament to list some offenses and say these ones are no go. No, that's not how development is carried out. You see, Professor Kwe made I don't know, I seek to differ from him. Human rights are also part of development. This argument was proffered in the 1960s. You hear the case of Ria Kutu, okay, or Ria Kutu. Those were the kind of arguments that were made in the 60s that, in our quest to develop, human rights must take a second seat, or they must play second fiddle to their economic and social rights. No, but history is replete with human rights abuses that render the economic and social rights nugatory. They are no longer that useful because human beings are disabused, okay, to the extent that the food you give them, the shelter you give them, are of no use to them. You see. So this debate has always been going on, but if you look at it broadly, it's been accepted that all the rights, they matter. So you hear that human rights are indivisible. Human rights are indivisible. So you cannot say these are first generation rights, second generation rights, and so on and so forth. No. They are all one. Let's carry all the three together. And there's a way to balance them. That's how come the Supreme Court came out with this decision to say that don't just list some offenses and say they are not bailable, but make all of them bailable, subject to the discretion of the judge. So the judge will look at the circumstances of each case and decide. And that is the law, my brother, in the US, okay, in the UK, and so on and so forth. If you read the Martin Kwebu, and that's Martin Kwebu number 2, the cases are different. There's Martin Kwebu number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, okay? So the one we are talking about is Kwebu number 2. So the Supreme Court did a survey of some countries, compared them, a comparative study, and saw that it is good that we also catch up internationally by using that approach.
Now, do you foresee someone taking up the challenge vis-a-vis a possible review as has publicly been made?
No. What is being done? Well, the doors to the court, the Supreme Court, are not locked. So theoretically, somebody can attempt to write and go and present it. But no, that's not how it's done. Once they've given this decision in this manner, that's it. You can't go back that they should set aside this decision because it's wrong. No, the doors are closed.
All right.
Legally. But in terms of physically, if you go and write something, yes, it can be presented to the court, but it won't get far. No.
Okay. I'm grateful that you could join us. That's lawyer Martin Pegude. We'll take a quick break here on Joy News Prime. We'll be back with more. Stay with us. So welcome back from the break. It's time for us to bring you Showbiz, and the ever gorgeous Noella Karen Yale is here with us for the latest from the world of Showbiz. Hi, good evening.
Hi, Kojo. It's good to be doing this with you. First time.
Yeah. And it's an exciting one.
For me
you
as
look
well.
Pretty.
Thank you. You see me all the time. Why are you giving me accolades?
No, that's fine.
But anyway, let's begin with our first story that has to do with Bulldog and Shatawale. Trust me, if you ask me how the story started, the beef started, I probably wouldn't know. But I remember that Shatawale had an interview on Showbiz A to Z where he was asked about his relationship with his former, manager, Bulldog. And I remember he said, oh, Bulldog, we're cool, just that when he calls me, I don't pick up. And then all of a sudden we saw Bulldog, sharing some word of an advice to Shatta Wale about his career and who he should collaborate with, And then all of a sudden, Bulldog now releases, the yet to be released On God, GOG album. That is Shatta's, yet to be released album. The album list. That's supposed to be a surprise, and it involves some collaborations between John Legend, blah, blah. And so that, sort of hurt Shatta Wale. And so he decided to allege and speculate some things which included, the former president, Bulldog being the former president's sort of fixer in terms of ladies, a whole lot of stuff. And it resulted in Bulldog, taking him to court, basically.
Oh, okay.
He sued him. Let's see the writ of summon on the screens quickly and read through it if we can. But if not...
So point is that when that happened, Shatta Wale brought an allegation about his involvement in Fenech's
That's right. In fact, a number of allegations. I mean, some of them we couldn't bring it out because they are, too harsh, if you ask me. So that's the writ of summon. And let's also hear Bulldog, who on Hits FM explained why he took Shatta to court.
I mean, the pronouncements in there, if you look at the things he wrote about plenty of things, that I'm a hired gunman for the ex-president. It's in there.
Have you heard from the ex-president?
No, I won't say that. I mean, but I've heard from, his quarters,
what are they saying?
Oh, mean shedding, that's all. I mean,
are they concerned in any way?
Oh, their concern was, I mean, how is he throwing his name about like that, And I mean, even before I went on to pursue the suit, I told them, I mean, these are things that I will handle. I won't take it lying down, I don't think the ex-president himself has the time to even want to raise a suit against him, because he can also do that. The party, NDC, can do that as well, so, but I'm not sure they are looking at doing that. But I need to do that, for my persona, because I have a relationship with that family. So I need to make sure that, hey, his name is set in the right place, set aside from all the things that are happening. You understand?
Right, so that is Bulldog's explanation to why he's suing Shatta. Well, Shatta has responded in a rather witty manner. Let's see.
Hey, here we dey go cut. We dey go cut. We dey go. We dey go.
Typical Shatta Wale.
My goodness.
Typical Shatta
I mean,
Wale.
I love this one.
Yeah.
Joking with everything that comes his way.
Of course. Let's move on to a second story and talk about, I don't know if you remember, between the year 2005 or 2006.
Yeah, 2005.
Do you remember the case that had to do with Miss Bell being sexually assaulted in a KNUST concert?
I do.
Do you know who organized that concert?
No, tell me.
Jay Foley.
Oh.
Yeah, I had an interview with him and he's been recounting that experience.
It was all supposed to go beautiful, well organized. It was Castro, Miss Bell, Pryor. They were the three artists that were billed for the show.
Yeah.
They came in, they performed absolutely marvelous. Unfortunately, sometime in the middle of the show, when Miss Bell came in with her dancers, and Anekia, my apologies, I've always apologized to you for this. The students got a bit rowdy, seeing how hot she looked on stage.
Yeah.
And they went past the security, went on stage, and some were heckling her and all manner of things. Yeah, touching, pushing, Sheen, Jama. It just sort of put her in this traumatic stage. And a good friend of mine called Richmond stayed us that day, managed to go on stage and took Miss Bell off the stage, put her in the car. We drove her off to her hotel.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the events of the night had just gone so far. Yeah, had gone so mad that it went so viral. It became a bit of a police case. Administration, the school's reputation was, kind of dented at that moment. But I was young and naive. Was through no fault of ours. Just students misbehaved on that day, and it got us in all the trouble. But I did my punishment, and
what sort of punishment?
Punishment. I remember at that time I did some community service to the school.
Okay.
Yeah. I worked in the antenatal, no, the maternity. Yeah, ward.
I see.
You know, it made me a tougher person.
Yeah.
But I mean, Miss Bell, you know, I always say that we've been friends from long, and it wasn't a good experience for a woman, you know, and how the boys at that time, you know, made things go. Yeah.
I mean, how's your relationship like with her today?
Oh, absolutely brilliant. I mean, Anika she's a good friend. You know? And I mean, we let the past, we let sleeping dogs lie, so we moved on past it, you know. But our apologies really went out, you know, to her. We did it right. We wrote to her. We spoke about it. I met her in person, and our relationship, we had a relationship beyond what happened, so we kept that.
Right.
You know,
So that's the interesting story. I didn't know that, so for me it was quite a surprise.
No, I did.
It's good to know they've moved past the situation, and you're best of friends.
I mean, it was a big news then.
Big story.
Yeah.
Big story.
You know, that Miss Bell.
It's okay.
I'm assisting here. You know.
Kojo, thanks for having me.
No, it's a pleasure having you on the show. Please, let's do this.
Sure, we'll do it often. Don't worry. More often we will.
That's how we wrap up today's bulletin. There's more news on myjoyonline.com. My name is Samuel Kojo Braze, and Kojo Abaka comes up next with Prime Business. Stay with us.